everybody, this is the Shy Genealogist, and today we're going to continue working on our surname database. My goal for today is to show you how to consolidate this table so that we don't have to have quite so many rows of information. We just want to have one row for each person if possible, and I also want to show you how we can collect the information that FamilySearch gives us to create our source citations and where we can put that information within this database. The first thing I want to show you is a really fun tool that I use all the time, and that is called a filter. You need to have your cursor in one of the cells that has the database. It can't be over here on the side. And then you're going to go to the Data tab, and you're going to click right here where it says Filter. And what this is going to do is it will take your first line of information and it will put a little drop down arrow next to it. And within here, every individual piece of information that is in that column will be listed, so you can decide whether you want to hide something or see something. So we're going to take this long list, which could be overwhelming, and we're going to break it down a little bit to make it more manageable to view. The first thing I want to do is use the filter on the full name, and I don't want to see them all for this demonstration. I just want to see Abraham Smith. So here's Abraham Smith, and I can see that there are going to be 4 different documents here for Abraham. But I also noticed that his wife's name also ends with Smith. So her name is going to be in this full name list as well, and I might as well work on her at the same time while I'm collecting information. So if I click on the filter and come down to the ends, I see that over here we have Nancy H. Smith as well as Nancy Smith and a Nancy W. Smith. I don't see Nancy V in this list, so I'm not going to select it here. I'll say OK, and now my list has expanded a bit, and I really want to focus on the ones where Nancy is married to Abraham, and here I notice another Smith, a father named William Smith, so I want to add him to my list as well. So here's William. Now I've got every Nancy, William, and Abraham that appears in this full name list. That's still more than I want to see. What I really want to focus on is the marriage between Abraham and Nancy, and it occurred in 1816. So I'm going to now filter and say, out of the ones that are still showing, just show me 1816 and show me anything that has a blank for the date, because these William Smiths down here don't have a date at this time. Click OK. Now we've got a nice short list. I still see a couple of names here that I don't want to worry about right now. So if I click on this spouse filter, I can say if it's a spouse, I don't want to see William Smith and I don't want to see Elijah Smith. I will work on those names later. Right now I can be pretty confident that all of these are referring to the same marriage event. I want to try to end up with just one line for Abraham Smith and one line for Nancy Smith and one line for William Smith when he appears as the father. I've got these 2 different William Smiths here, and I'm not sure which one or both might end up being the correct William Smith, but I am going to eliminate all but 3 of these rows. So I'm going to pick a row and I'm going to bold everything in that row to tell me this is the row that I want to put all the information in, because eventually I'm going to delete these other Abraham Smiths. And for my Nancy row, I'm going to go ahead and pick the row that has William as the father. So now I know that if I'm adding information to this chart, I want to try to add it to one of the rows that has bold. This just helps me to keep all my information together in the correct line so that I don't accidentally delete something that I wanted to keep. Now we have this list of links over here on the side. Some of them are for Abraham, some for Nancy, and some for William, and we know a lot of these are going to be duplicates, so we're just going to start at the top and see what we have. When I put my cursor over an active link, it turns into a pointing hand. So I click, and that means it will open for me within my internet browser. And this is going to open a page from FamilySearch, but it's not the actual document. I've got some information here. It might help me read something that I can't understand on my own. I've got some citing this record information down here, a little bit of information about the film, and here's a slightly blurry image of what our document's going to look like. If I click on this magnifying glass, it opens this document within the same tab. I like to have them both available to me at the same time, so instead, right here where it says View the Original Document, I right-click and tell it to open in a new tab. That way I can click back and forth if I can't read something, or if I'm puzzled about something, I can go back and look and see what FamilySearch has to say. Now if I open this tab right here that says Information, I can see that here's a note about the film, and it tells me that on this film, this is volumes 1 through 3, but it doesn't tell me which that I'm looking at, this specific page is. So for me to figure out which book I'm looking at, 1, 2, or 3, I'm going to have to come over here and click on the Browse Multiple Images. I do want to remember that this is image 104, just in case I can't find it again. But I come back to the multiple images and I scroll up until I find right here, it tells me this is volume 1. I'm going to need that information for my citation, so I'm going to remember volume 1. I'm going to double click here to look at this again, and if I scroll in, that helps me zoom, and I see it's page 196. Volume 1, page 196. That's the information I want to come back and put in my database that I have going. So right now we have a marriage date. I'm going to add a column, and it's going to say marriage register, because that's the information that I'm looking at right now. And I'm going to put in here that this is volume 1, page 196. Now, because Excel is made to crunch numbers, it's going to look at this information different than I might. If I push the Enter key now, well, it changes it to a decimal because it thinks I'm talking about a ratio. So for me, I'm going to put V1 for volume 1, and then my page number. You might decide that you want to have a different format for that, but I just want you to be aware that if Excel is changing the number for you automatically, you need to come up with some way of making it obvious that this is text. Another thing that I want to do is come back and I want this hyperlink to be available to me so that I can click on this volume 1, page 196, and it will take me directly to that document. So to make this hyperlink active, I come to the Insert tab. I want to insert a hyperlink. I make sure to tell it that this is a web page, and I put the web address that I just copied into the box and tell it OK. Now it changes the formatting to the typical blue underlined. We know that that's an active link. To make sure, put your cursor over it and it should turn into a hand. Now the other thing that I'm going to want to put in my Excel document is source information. I might want to take the time right now to go ahead and make a final source citation. However, if I'm not sure if this is my family or if I'm just collecting information, I just want to know what they're telling me about this document. So I'm going to come back to the FamilySearch page and I'm going to copy citing this record. Come back to my Excel doc, and because Excel does not have a endnotes or footnotes feature, I'm going to put these into a comment. I have my cell outlined, and I'm going to come up to the Review tab, and I'm going to say New Comment. Now I want you to notice right here in the comment section that normally your name would appear here, but I have changed this to Citations. And to change the name that appears at the top of your comments box, you can come to File and then come down to Options. And if you look here under General, personalize your copy of Microsoft Office, you can change this username to whatever you want it to be, as long as you put a check mark here where it says always use these values regardless of sign into Office. So if later I'm collecting some comments and they're not citations, I can come in and change that name, and it would start changing the name at the top of the comment box to whatever we enter there. I can also take this box and I can make it bigger, I can move it around as long as I've got my cursor. If it's a four-sided cross, it's going to move it. If it's a two-sided arrow, then I can change the shape of it to whatever I want. Now I'm going to paste the information that I had, but I remember that they also had a citation for me down here. Here's a film note. I may want to copy that. Copy, come back, paste that into the citation comment box as well. And if I scroll down a little bit, here's another citation, and this one's giving me the image number. So I do want that information as well. Now it's not giving me the actual book and page number, so that information is up to me to keep track of. Now if I click anywhere else, the comment box disappears and you see this red triangle to indicate that there is a comment there. Anytime you put your cursor over that box, you're going to see the comment pop up. And you can always come back and edit this comment by clicking in the box and then selecting the edit comment. If you find some more information that you want to add, you can always edit the comment and add to that. We had noticed back here in FamilySearch that this was image 104, and we did copy that information down here in this citation, but I like to keep a little list going over on the side, because when I get down here into Nancy and William's documents, if I see that it's image 104, I know I already have it and I don't have to worry about that anymore. So we've made a hyperlink, we've included a comment with our source information, and we might continue to go through and look for other information. I'm going to go ahead and click on all of these documents. I'm going to put in the information, and then we're going to come back and talk about some other options that we can put into our document. And we're back. And I have added as much information as I could pull out of these documents. I ended up with a permission document. There was actually witnesses to the permission, as well as a comment about one of the witnesses. My comment here tells me that William Smith, who signed this permission, also indicated that Pauline was over 17 years old, so he must have been pretty young. That might be something good to know later. We had a marriage bond and a bondsman. I had a second marriage register, which gave just a little bit more information, so I wanted to indicate that. I had a witness to the marriage itself. We have the minister who performed the marriage. Down here I had the record for William Smith, and I indicated that his child was Nancy H. Smith. I made sure to look at this document that said Nancy W., and I determined that that was a transcription error, and I believe that that is an H, so I have indicated that I believe her name is Nancy H. Smith. And then over on the sides in that last little column, I had kept record of what image numbers I was looking at, so I can see that there were no additional documents that I hadn't already looked at. This final document here for the second William Smith ended up being a different man for a different marriage, so I have nothing for that William Smith at this time. So I did determine that this William Smith was the man that I was looking for this marriage. I'm going to go ahead and bold him, and as I work my way through this whole long list, I will know that bold means I've already taken a look at this record and I don't need to do it again. So now to consolidate our list a little bit, I'm going to take these 3 rows and I'm going to delete them because the information is already up here. This Nancy H. Smith is not bold, so I'm going to delete that row. I'm going to delete these 2 Nancys. So now I have Abraham, Nancy, and William. I'm not going to delete this final William because I want him to remain in the list, but I know he doesn't belong with this marriage record, so I just need to remember to come back and look at him, and that's why he's not going to be bolded at this time. So there's one additional thing that I would like to show you, In the witnesses for the permission, there were actually two men. There was Pauline Smith and another man, William Withers. So I would like to add another name, but if I put my cursor at the end and hit the Enter key, it just takes me to the cell below. It doesn't allow me to continue typing in that cell. If I want to do that, I need to type an Alt-Enter, and then I can enter my additional witness, William Withers. Now up here in this box where I'm typing, it looks like Pauline Smith has disappeared. There's a small arrow over here. If you click on that, it makes this box a little bit larger and you can see what else is in there. So now I have Pauline Smith and William Withers. If I want to make my box back to the original size, I can click that arrow again and that does that. So now I want to copy this information down into Nancy H. Smith's row, so I don't have to type again and put in all those hyperlinks again and everything. So I'm going to highlight these boxes. I'm going to come across here, Control C to copy, and then I'm going to put my cursor in the box where I want this copy to begin, and I'm going to paste. Now before I paste, I'm looking here at this 18 January, and I can see that that date came from the permission slip. That happened to be the document link that went with her name. So it's going to overwrite that information, and that's fine, but it's something to keep in mind before you paste over something. Make sure that's not information that you need. So now when I paste that information in with a Control V, I get all of the hyperlinks, I get all of the comments, all the information that I have up here is now copied down into Nancy H. Smith's row. I'm not going to put the information here in William Smith's line because that would be a little bit confusing. Am I talking about his marriage or someone else's marriage? I just want to know that for William Smith, we have proven that he had a daughter named Nancy H. Smith. Now I do want to show you one other way that we can copy a large amount of information very quickly. And to do that, I'm going to turn off all of the filters that we had so I can get my entire list going again. So I've turned off all my filters and I have my entire list again. We can see if we come down here far enough, I've got this information still in here. And what I would like to add is that these marriages all took place in Mercer County, Kentucky, because eventually I might be adding additional Smith families from other counties into this same spreadsheet. I want to indicate that these marriages took place in Mercer County. I'm going to insert a column, and I'm going to indicate the county, and I'm going to write Mercer, Kentucky up here at the very top. Now when I click on this, I see that green box has a small green square in the corner. If I put my cursor on that green square and pull down, it puts Mercer, Kentucky into every row. This can save me a lot of time. I don't have to do the Control C, Control V over and over and over and over to get all those rows. I can come through this entire list of 250-ish names and I can put Mercer County in all of those. And there they all are. And one thing to keep in mind when you're doing this type of copying is that if you are copying a number like 1820 and I pull down, it thinks that's a series of numbers and it automatically increases them for me. I don't want that in this case. I just want to copy it. So if I open this submenu over on the side and I tell it to copy the cells, then it changes them all to the exact same date. So that's a fast way of copying that information. However, if I had tried to copy using the pull down method here and I copied this cell down one row, it would copy the information and the link, but it would not copy the comment. That's why I wanted to do the Control C, Control V to copy and paste that information. Thanks for joining me today for this tutorial. Next time we're going to do some finishing touches on this database, and I hope to see you then.